I am really excited about today's speaker. I have worked with her on and off probably over the last 15 years. And so we've had some very special experiences, and it also means that I think I know what I'm talking about. And of course, I'm talking about Gabriele Wienhausen. And as you know, or should know, she has recently left us.
No, I just moved across campus.
Okay, she moved across campus. And I just want to make sure I get this right. She is the faculty director of the Teaching and Learning Commons. And this commons is being established with the aim of significantly enhancing teaching and learning at UC San Diego. And I can't think of really anyone more appropriate. She's been here for 28 years over that time. She is certainly a scientist, scholar, teacher, mentor, administrator, but really most importantly, Gabriele is the most visionary, innovative, and passionate person that I've encountered in the 32 years I've been at UCSD when it comes to education. And so Marty has some other comments, but I think you're very, very fortunate to hear this message. There's nobody better on this campus to share these kinds of thoughts with you. So thank you very much, and Marty.
Hi everyone, it's great to see all of you, and before even introducing Gabriele, I just want to thank all of you for everything you do, because for all of us faculty, we couldn't do our jobs without you, and it's really appreciated. Gabriele, I think you came more than 30 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, to UCSD, and over those...
Staying for 1 year.
Yeah, basically about 30 years. And over the many years that have followed, Gabriele rose through the ranks as one of our teaching professors, and one of our finest teaching professors, by the way. In fact, she was so good at it and developed such an incredible reputation that she was eventually recruited to be the provost of 6th College. And so she unfortunately left us in some ways, or took on that responsibility for, I believe, about 7 years, and did an amazing job there before being re-recruited back to our division, to biology, where she has served as the Associate Dean for Education. I have to maybe just tell you a little story, because a few years ago I was on a committee. It was kind of a secret committee evaluating our former dean, Steve Kay. Some of you may remember him. He's gone on to bigger and better things. It was a secret committee because we were supposed to determine whether or not he should be renewed for another 5 years. It didn't actually matter because he took another job. He went to USC, and so the committee didn't have to finish its duties. But in any case, on that committee, I had the opportunity to, along with other committee members, to interview all the other provosts on campus, all the other deans on campus, other vice chancellors, and many other senior faculty. And over and over and over again, they all said that biological sciences, our department, was the shining example of how to educate students on this campus. And they were amazed at how we were able to educate 5,000, 6,000 majors, and just astonished. And every single one of them did not credit the dean. They credited this person over here, Gabriele.
No.
That is true. They kept saying, how does she do it? And honestly, I don't know the answer, but I do know that she did do it, and she has done an amazing job. And we have an incredible educational mission here that has succeeded for many years. In addition to all that educational stuff, though, Gabriele is very involved in outreach activity, outreach to the community, to students who are younger than the students that are here at UCSD, encouraging them to come to UCSD, and many of these students are coming from underrepresented backgrounds. And this has been a huge passion and a very successful one that she has been involved with for many, many years. So the last thing I want to say is that Gabriele is not, in my view, she's not one person, she's like 4 people. Seriously, I don't know how one person does as much as you do. I mean, it is amazing. And all of us recognize that somehow you manage to do it. You're on a bazillion committees, you're doing a bazillion things, and all successfully. I don't know how you do it. It's amazing, but I think you're all lucky here to not only have her here, but to have her here today to tell us about production. And I just want to say thank you for all you've done.
Thank you.
And she's not disappearing. She's still going to be with us in
Right,
biology,
right.
even though she does have a new title.
Right.
Okay?
Thank you so much. You know, those were incredible introductions, and I'm very, very grateful for this, but I wanted, and I don't want to, I get emotional, but really it has been amazing. It has been an amazing opportunity for me to come to this campus and to spend most of my time in biology, where really my heart is. And the reason that some of the successes that were listed were possible, and truly possible, is because of this amazing place that we call the Department of Biology in the previous century, and now the Division of Biological Sciences, and it's the colleagues who are sitting in this room that I have been fortunate to work with. And that's why we were able to do these things. So it really takes a village, and I wanted to thank you all, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to share a little bit with you what has been happening on campus in the recent years, and also what we are doing in our division and beyond. So, a student-centered university educating for life and work, that's what we are going to talk about. And let me just see. There we go. So, I wanted to make sure that you have kind of a feeling for how we are proceeding, because it will be quite a bit, and I want to make sure that we don't get lost. First thing I want to do is setting the context for the talk for student-centered university educating for life and work. And then what I will share with you are at 3 different levels how we are achieving this, or how we are trying to achieve it. The first level is in the division. The second level is in what we call the STEM units, so biological sciences, physical sciences, and engineering. And then campus-wide, and then we wrap it all together, and there will be a test, okay? So here's now the context. You all know that we recently, well, not that recently, but 2 years ago, we got a new chancellor, and the first thing he did was a strategic plan. And out of the strategic plan really came a very interesting and very ambitious mission. And the mission was to be a student-centered, research-focused, service-oriented public university. And what I want to highlight is the student-centered. So what does this really mean? So student-centered is really a wrong word, and it is really learning-centered. And very importantly, what does this mean? These 3 things. Now we focus on learning, and of course you immediately say, what the hell is she talking about? That's what the university is about, right? Learning. But in the olden days, and even now, what is happening at the university is exactly what I'm practicing and demonstrating now, which is I'm standing here and I'm talking at you, and there's really no understanding on my part when you leave how much you actually learn from this lecture. And so what student-centered, learning-centered means is that we have to change this attitude, and that we really have to be concerned about, do we know that at the end of the class, when the students are graduating, that they know something? So what learning-centered also means is that in the olden days, what we have done is we have always said everything that's important at the university happens inside the classroom. And so again, it goes back to that it is faculty-centered, teaching-centered, content-centered, and that we ignore what's happening outside the classroom. So learning-centered university means we are not ignoring this. And last but not least at all, and it's absolutely interconnected, I still have to teach. And teaching is very important. But if I want that you in the end of the class know something, I need to know how to be a good teacher. And a good teacher should learn how to teach, and should teach based on what research, cognitive science, psychology, social sciences, anthropology has shared with us how people learn. We know that from research. And so that means I as a teacher need to know this and need to use pedagogical strategies that are based on what research has told me. And that has a name, and I'm using this, and that's scholarly teaching. So, that's frame number one. Frame number two, the President of the United States has a Council of Advisors on Science and Technology. And what they have identified is that the US is falling behind, potentially, in terms of innovation and creativity, especially in the science and technology field, because we don't have enough students interested in STEM, and those who are interested are dropping out. So double whammy. So when you look at the reality at UC San Diego, these are data that are a year old. So actually what that council tells the president is not wrong. And that is, when you look at the number of students who start at STEM majors, only 58% of them will actually graduate as STEM majors. And the problem is, if you are an underrepresented minority or if you are female, your chances to graduate in STEM are even lower. And to add another whammy, if you are a STEM major, you also will stay here for more than 4 years. All right, last frame, last part of the framing the talk. What we also hear over and over again from employers, but what we also hear from medical school, from other professional schools, you are sending us students who know the stuff that you teach them in their major. But those kids that you are sending us really lack what is called soft skills. And you know, there's a whole list of soft skills, but they are just, I put down 3 here because they really highlight all of them. So people always say you have to be able to continue to learn till you die, right? It's lifelong learning. I can say this in a nicer way. And so what that means is, if I want to be a lifelong learner, I have to know how to reach out to people who know more than I do. And I have to ask them questions, and I have to learn from them. I also have to go to resources and learn from resources. So in other words, you know, I have to be able to build and engage in a real broad social and learning network. And then I have to be able to actually use some higher level thinking skills, right? I have to be able to synthesize, to analyze, to also utilize insights. I have to make judgment calls. Without that, I can never think outside the box. And last but not least, you know, it doesn't do me any good if I'm sitting in my office and come up with a great action plan and then don't know how to implement it. And so these are the critiques that we hear. All right, so how does it look like here at UC San Diego? And who are our students? So you may be surprised. Let's start with a surprise here. So female, male. The big surprise is that here at UC San Diego, we actually have more boys than girls, which is very unusual, and it's against the national trend. And the big reason for that is that UC San Diego, among all UC schools, has the highest number of STEM majors. And STEM majors traditionally, attract more males. But you also see that we are doing pretty pathetically still in terms of diversity. This African American number hasn't budged for the last 30 years. We are doing a little bit better in the Hispanic. We are kind of increasing our Hispanic population, but not necessarily because we are doing anything good. It's because the California population is changing and the high school students are predominantly Latino, so we cannot really say we did something great. But we are working on this. But this is also reality. This is actually, for those of you who haven't been there, this is Peterson Hall, 400 kids, and they do all kinds of things, I think, including listening. And that's me, no, that's somebody, but this is what I'm talking on. You know, there's a big classroom, we have no idea what's going on. So, do we understand that we have an educational challenge at many different levels? And so the question is, what are we doing about this? And you saw that I put we in capital letters, and not because I'm German and we capitalize everything, but because we really want, the we is really, we are all responsible for this, and at many different layers. So let's look at the very first layer, right? Our home, biological sciences. And so what we have done in biology is really a two-pronged approach. And the two-pronged approach is really aligned with, remember how I defined student-centered? That we cannot just look inside the classroom, but we also have to be concerned outside the classroom. So the two-pronged approach reflects this. So here's an example inside the classroom, and this is an example outside the classroom. So Build 4 is a new lower division lab we never taught forever, never ever. Ever since the beginning of the Department of Biology, we never offered a lower division lab, believe it or not. We are now doing this. And what you are seeing here is, of course, truly our backyard. This is a view from the knoll. I don't know how many of you sometimes go for a walk there when life just comes crashing down and you need to make sure that actually it's not too bad. So this is the beautiful view from the La Jolla Knoll from the, it has a different name, Scripps Reserve. And it's part of the nature reserve. You all know about the nature reserves that we have. And of course you see La Jolla here. So what we are doing there is, so Build 4 is a course that has 0 prerequisites. So even if you don't know how to spell the word biology, you will be able to take the course. Meaning, you know, if you didn't take any biology in high school and so forth. It's a research-based course. And what the students are doing is they are finding out something about microbiology by really going to this place and say, you know, what are the soil properties there? What are functional biodiversity means? You know, where do microorganisms get their food, their energy? So that's the carbon sources is how do I get energy? What kind of food am I eating? And genetic biodiversity is, you know, how many different types of microorganisms are living there. So I'm showing this on purpose because the students literally, if you see kind of a group of students like Mama Duck and students behind walking across the street, that's actually Build 4 students who go there because they actually have to see the place that they are working in. By doing this, we talk to them, right? We show them this is the nature reserve, this is what the UC system does, this is why they are doing this. And at the same time, you can also look down, you actually see Scripps Institution of Oceanography, and you tell students that they call us, you know, the upper campus because they think that they are just better. And then you start talking about how the university was founded, and you tell them all kinds of interesting stories. You also show them where the chancellor lives, and of course everybody is switching from biology to pre-chancellor. And but you see what we are doing is we are introducing students to the history of the campus and are connecting what we are doing to what's going on campus. So, and then we are asking research questions, and the research questions are each quarter differently, and they are also different from year to year, and we keep those data. There's actually a website where the students will collect the data so that 10 years from now, students can go back and say what was different in 2015. So, for example, the research question right now, so these are native species, these are the invaders, and you just check, you know, are there any differences in the microbial population in these places? Is the soil different and so forth? So you are really engaging students in real research questions that don't know the answer. It's not a cookbook type lab. Now, then secondly, what we are doing, speaking of cookbook type, you know, everybody, how many of you have written lab reports and said, why are we doing this? Because it's just busy work, right? I see some nodding. That's exactly, I really think it's busy work. So what we do with the students, no, we don't do anything. We introduce them to this Saltman Quarterly, which is a publication produced by students' peers, right? And they publicize research. And then we look at this and we look at how a research paper is written. And we talk about why it is written like this. And then we ask the students to present what they have researched in this format. So a very different approach. And we introduce them to the Saltman Quarterly and we do some recruiting there. But we also help them understand that we are actually offering them, if they have research outcomes that are publishable, please publish in here. All right? So, and then very fun, I don't know how many of you went to the poster session, but at the end of the quarter, the students have to come up with a research question, and they have to research that research question and then formulate an approach how they would answer this research question. So far, so good? All right. So what have we done? And how is this aligned to what I said before? So what we are doing in here, these are freshmen. And what we are doing here is we are engaging them very early on in the what does it mean to be a scientist? And remember that I said that the dropout rate of STEM is gigantic, and we know the reasons. Not that we know all of them. There are, of course, a variety of reasons, but we know major reasons. And one is that students are sitting in classes and say, this is so boring. You know, how often have you heard that biology is just memorizing data? Have you heard that? Yeah, which of course is BS, but that's what they take away from when they sit in classes. Are we doing this here? No. We are also helping them understand really how fun it is to be a researcher. We also connect them to campus resources. You know, there's this talking going on, and we share with them how UCSD came about and you know, what people are doing and the research that's going on at SIO and why it put us on the map. And by the way, you live in the Keeling apartments. Do you know what the Keeling curve is? So you start talking. See what I mean? Plus, you know, in a lab, as many of you know, you always have some downtime, okay? So then what we also do is we bring in senior undergraduates, graduate students, postdocs from all over the campus who talk about how they became researchers and why. So we also connect, because they have to write, right? So we tell them, do you know that we have a campus resource that is called Writing Center? And so we are introducing them to the director of the Writing Center. We actually go there so that they get to know the resource. The librarians are actively involved. Remember that they have to write this poster that they have to create. So they have to do research. So what we are doing is, you know, by having that assignment, they are learning how to use library resources. So we are connecting them to the resources on campus. And the students have to work together. Get that? They have to talk to each other. And then, you know, we do a poster presentation. And there are people from all over campus coming, faculty, graduate students, postdoc, and criticizing the posters. So they are also learning the scientific communication and presenting your ideas and then being criticized by the community. So the students learning what it means to be a professional in the field, they learn peer interactions, they learn teamwork. We are modeling what it means to be in engaged learning and in an engaged learning environment. So the students are experiencing this, and they can because the faculty teaching this course, Stanley Lowe, applies scholarly teaching. See the connection? And see why we are doing this and how we are addressing some of the issues of dropout? All right, do bio. We are proud of do bio. Where's Hermilla? Yes. We don't have time, but this is clickable, and I encourage you all to search do bio. It's a Center for Discovering Opportunities in Biological Sciences. So why did we create it? So this goes back to why are students dropping out and what can we do about this? And what we know is that students have to be engaged. Now that's a word, what does it mean? What does engagement mean? And before we go there, why are we concerned about this? We can actually measure student engagement, not that takes social scientists and they know what they are doing. But if you have an engaged student, what we know, we have the data. The student is less likely to drop out of the major and out of college. The student's academic performance increases, and the student is just plain happier. Where are the alumni folks? So you will have happy alums. There we go. Very important. So, and how you get engaged. So this is now the question. So it's inside the classroom. Do you think that the Build 4 students were engaged? I can tell you, you should come and visit next time, and you will get an invitation, and you should have gotten an invitation to go to the poster presentation and talk to the students because it's invigorating. Remember that we got the money from the chancellor to renovate the lab so that we could teach it? He came unannounced. You know, he wanted to see the students. So I'm saying this because we really didn't pay them. And so he came, and the students were excited. They were able to tell him in real clear English what they were researching, and why they were doing it. And he was amazed. So they were engaged. So engagement inside and outside the classroom. And what it takes is interactions also with teachers and peers, and that happened in the classroom. So, but how do we achieve this? And so what we know is, and our advising colleagues know this, how important advising is. And we have to have effective advising structures. And then what we also know is it's very important that students get engaged in not only Build 4, that's just the beginning, right? We have to do more in what is called high impact learning activities. And high impact means getting involved in research, being an IA. Do you all know what an IA is? Instructional assistant. What else do I have? Internships, studying abroad. That's high engagement opportunities, and that really we know has an effect. And then active learning in the classroom. So this goes back to teaching, that we really have to make sure that the faculty who are teaching know what they are doing, and that we help them become effective teachers. All right, so here's the problem. I always tell you, we can do this, and then we have the problem, but then we can do it, right? 5,000, I don't know where we are right now, 5,359, maybe, close. Very distributed advising structure. We have very few advisors only. 5,000 students, 8 advisors. It's kind of a crazy ratio. But then, because there are so many students, and this is a gigantic campus, many of our students don't even know that we have these opportunities. And if they know, they also don't know how to get to it. So, for example, Hermila and I, we do info sessions about undergraduate research. The students don't even know. They ask, how do I talk to a faculty? How do I knock at the door? So, and okay, I'm taking away, I have slides. So, so you see the problem, right? So now we understand why we need something new to reach out to students. And so we need something for a large number, we need to motivate them, and we have to identify the barriers. I just named a barrier, which is, how do I talk to a faculty? So, and this is what DoBio is doing. So it's our commitment to co-curricular and applied learning. And we really want to do this by developing interconnected programs that are helping our students in a variety of ways, and I will give you some examples. So, and it's really student engagement, and we know why, professional development, and also community involvement. So, am I too fast, or are you still with me? All right. So, DoBio. So you all need to come when we, in fall, September, I don't know, whatever it is, when we do our orientation, which we absolutely don't do because we do an explorientation. So, we have 500, 600, 700 students coming. Of course, we have to be in the Ballroom Prize Center. Have you ever been in the Ballroom Prize Center? Gigantic. All right, the students come, and there's the first surprise, no chairs. And then we tell them, that really going to college is not a spectator sport. And that's why there are no chairs. And some are not really happy, and then we say, well, you have to understand what it means to be an engaged student. And then what we do a lot of things, but just a few examples. We don't give them answers. We don't tell them this is how things work, this is how advising works. We give them tasks, and then they have to go out and find their answers. So in the ballroom, there are lots of resource tables, and the students have to go and find the answers. And we also tell them that they have to do this in teams, and that they have to find a couple students that they have never ever seen before. Do some students lie? Yes, but it's okay. Then we also ask them to find out resources on campus that we think they need to know from day one. So we have a scavenger hunt and then some prizes, right? And it sets them off the right path, so modeling behavior. not telling them what an engaged student is, but helping them do it. And so do bio again. Oops. Oops. I think I was here. So do bio also provides leadership opportunities and then hands-on professional development. I will not go into this detail right here because there's more here. So for example, many of our students think that so day one, when you ask them what do you want to do when you graduate, what do you think the answer is? You got it. So we always ask how many of you do not want to go to medical school, and out of 700 we maybe get 7 hands. That changes, and it should change, right? How does an 18-year-old know what he or she wants to do? But then they are stuck because, contrary to engineers, who they always think know what they, that other students always are very jealous about engineers because they think engineers, they know exactly what they will be next time. They have a professional vision. Of course they don't, but it's okay. And our students think because, they get this piece of paper, it says, human biology major, that defines them. And what they do not understand is that they are defined by what they know, what they are able to do, and how they think. And that actually a biology degree is a kick-ass degree that trains them for many, many interesting professions. So we have to kind of help them understand this, and we are doing this in many ways. Again, we not that we have the perfect answer, and Hermila and I have always said we are building Do Bio. It's like building an airplane while you are flying it, and that's what it is. And the nerdy people here, they know that all tech people do this, right? You push out the beta version and then see what the users are doing. And then you ask, did you restart? And we do that too, but restarting in education is bad because then they stay too long. All right, so for example, for careers, so we have different levels. So we have info sessions where we have as many students as we have in the room right now. But we are focused, right? And so we are helping them start to understand it. But we also taught a course last winter quarter together with an alum. And it was a very hands-on course where students learned how to write a CV, how to prepare for an interview, how to prepare an elevator pitch, how to network. And many of you were involved actually in providing opportunities for students to practice interviewing. And we will continue to do this. The alum was on fire and we were too, right? And then we have lots of opportunities that we are creating with our colleagues from alumni and development, developing these interactions with alums and at different levels. Sometimes it's a dinner with alum and lots of different ways. And again, connecting our students and broadening their perspective. We also then, of course, talk about this applied learning and remember that many of our students, for example, have no idea that as undergraduates they can take classes at the Rady School because they are undergraduate students, no extra cost. They can do a minor. Many of our students are very reluctant to study abroad, but when they hear from other students who have done it, so we are developing these kinds of sessions and interactions to remember the access to high impact learning opportunities. That's what we try to do. Are we still okay? All right. Because this is important. It also goes back to, why are students dropping out of STEM? So the dropout of STEM really happens in the first freshman, sophomore years. And this is when the kids are in these lower division classes. They take math, chemistry, physics, and biology. Of course, those who take Build 4 are on fire, but, and they sit there in physics and say, I have no idea why I'm taking this. And I have no idea how the connection to biology, what the connection is. And in biology, they sit there and say, I have really no idea why I have to take OChem or why I have to take, chemistry. What's the connection? So you hear what I'm saying, and we also all teach as if we are the only science in the world. So there was a group of us that said, we really have a problem, and we as faculty really have to do something about this. And we created the Center for Advancing Math, Science, and Engineering Education, and it's yet another acronym, ChemZ. And so ChemZ is a very unusual community. So it's a community of faculty and people involved in instruction. So not just faculty. And we are concerned about teaching and the research about teaching and learning. And we are reading about research and we are doing research. So many of the members are the teaching professors, but we also have normal lettering faculty. We have postdocs, and as I said, we have staff involved in supporting instruction. We have librarians, we have academic computing, OASIS, writing center. And so what we are doing is, remember that I was talking about scholarly teaching, so teaching that is informed by what research is sharing and telling us. So we read this, but we are then also asking questions. How can we teach differently so that our students can learn? And then we try out new things, and then we assess how it worked, and then we create new models of practice, and then we publish, and that's called scholarship of teaching. So what ChemZ does is we are applying what we call promising educational principles, because we don't believe that there's anything like best practices. It just doesn't exist. It's promising principle, and then we have to see how they are working in our classroom. So Build 4 was an example. Okay? So now we have created within ChemZ a faculty learning community. And we have faculty from chemistry, engineering, physics, and biology. And so they learn from our experience. And they meet regularly and they talk about how to change the lower division labs in their disciplines. So chemistry is next. And actually engineering is starting a course that's for engineers that's very similar to our Build 4. And it's really learning from each other. And we believe that that is really the only way to sustain scholarly teaching. If you are the only one, you die, you shrink and shrimple like a raisin, because you need colleagues, otherwise intellectually you die, I think. So remember also that I said that we have colleagues from non-faculty colleagues. Fathom that. So, and are you all familiar with TED? It's the classroom management. So the colleagues from academic computing told us that we can do some really neat and nifty things with the classroom management system. And that is, we can, and we will do this as a pilot this spring. So there are certain triggers, that you as an instructor see. So you have students in the class and you see that they don't turn in the homework when you use that system. You see that, they just never get their clicker points. They don't seem to show up, or that they do poorly in exams. So certain triggering where you say, oh, this person is in trouble. And what we are going to do this spring with Build 1, Build 3, Chem 6A, Chem 7L, and with Math 10A, we're doing a pilot with ACMS, when we see these kinds of triggers, the students get a very gentle email with recommendations what to do. Either come and see me, or do you know about this resource, and so forth, and see if we can make an impact in student learning and that we can change the dropout rate out of the class. Does that make sense? All right. I want to go to what UCSD is doing, and if this is too fast, let me know, but I know it was a lot, right? I'm sorry. So the teaching and learning commons that people were talking about. So this came out of a long education initiative as a proposal that we as a campus, if we really want to be student-centered, remember what student-centered meant is that we have to focus on student learning. We have to provide opportunities for faculty to learn how to develop a classroom that is engaging. And we have to focus on inside and outside the classroom. Now, what we know from research is, and this is why we started ChemZ, if you just train one faculty, I train you for 2 weeks and you are ready to go, and then you do it. If she continues to do this alone, she will not last for a quarter, and she will go back to the old way of teaching. And so what we need is a community that supports you, and that's why we created ChemZ. And this is also why we are creating this here. So even when I talked about ChemZ, remember that I said we started Build 4, the chemists were laughing, literally laughing. I don't know if you know Chaim Weizmann. I couldn't walk across campus without him stopping me and say, "What are you doing? Teaching that course and students don't know any chemistry? Are you crazy?" Literally. And I don't know if you know him. If you know him, then you know that it is really, I mean, he was yelling at me. And I thought, just wait. And so now they are changing. And so he himself said, "I cannot believe it." So what we have on this campus is that we really don't talk to each other. We have lots of places where things happen. So for example, academic computing has hired instructional designers who help, you know, if you want to change your class, if you want to use technology, they actually come and help. The library has done the same. Did faculty know that they did this? No. Did I know that they did this? No. Do you know that they have a 3D printer in the library?
Yes.
Okay, yes, no. All right, so she knows, you don't, but see what I'm talking about? There is no communication and coordination. And so what we said is we really need to coordinate and we need to communicate. And we also say you cannot separate those two. Teaching and learning is one, it's yin-yang. And we also always have to do research on what we are doing. We cannot just say, I do this and therefore it's good. We have to demonstrate that what I'm doing differently is actually working. So, and this is why this was created. So it's really a system-level structure within academic affairs that is trying to create synergy, coordination with a dual focus. So again, our vision is we want engaged learners, we want to help the faculty, and we want that this campus is even better than it is right now. So the Teaching and Learning Commons is really a social network. So there's a lot that is invisible. And by the way, ChemZ is a very important node of the Teaching and Learning Commons. So we need those localized groups of experts, and we need to do the same in social sciences and so forth. But the STEM folks were a little bit earlier. It will serve as a model, as a pilot. But we also will create real centers. So we will have a Center for Engaged Teaching and a Center for Engaged Learning. We really do not have a center like this right now on campus, and it will happen. I'm in the process of hiring a director, of hiring people who can work with faculty so that they can learn how to teach. And what is very important, so if you have a faculty coming from biology, you are my test case. But then we also know that we can say there's a community in STEM that you can join and you can ask questions, and we have for ChemZ now people calling and sending email even from the medical school who now they have started 2 majors, as you know, asking us for help. How do you do this? How do you do that? And they are now coming too. So helping a faculty who has been, developed, and say there's actually a community that's willing to also come to your classroom, give you advice and so forth. So that's the vision. Then the Center for Engaged Learning, we also have nothing like this on campus, as you know. We have no tutorial center, we have a puny writing center, which is great. Puny is not that it is bad, but it is very limited. Engaged learning, and by the way, these centers are not just for undergraduates, and I don't think I made this clear. So this will also be for graduate students. And we also will develop new tools. So for example, we are in the process, we will launch this at the end of the year, a new tool for our undergraduates where they can find research and applied learning opportunities that will be launched. We are also working on some other tools. So for example, we are working on a tool for students to have an electronic portfolio that they can use when they apply for jobs. It will be linked to LinkedIn, no pun intended, so that there are connections there. There will be an opportunity for students to have a record of their co-curricular activities. And so all of this is working. There's actually funding for this made available, and it will happen. All right, we are almost done. I just want to wrap it up. Are we still with us? I'm here. Did we get it? Okay. So remember what we wanted. We wanted to become learning-centered. We wanted to increase retention and diversity in STEM, and we wanted to prepare for postgraduate success. And so really what I'm trying to say is with the TLC and everything we have done so far, what we have learned is it's not one person. And this is what I truly believe. It really is collective impact, but what we have to learn is that we have to abandon individual agendas and really talk about what we can do together. And this is really what happened here. Seriously, when we first met, there were people in biology looking at people from math faculty. When they were talking about their concerns about the students and what they were doing, they said, I didn't know that you cared about our students. So when you bring people at the table, it doesn't always happen, okay? I mean, otherwise, but all of a sudden you understand that you have joint issues, that you have really, and that we are teaching the same students and that we can do something together. So we need to work together on solving these problems. And remember, attrition in STEM majors, I've shown you 2 examples that we believe will be effective, and we are going to test them. Improvements have to be done in a coordinated way. This is why we created the TLC Center, but ChemZ is also helping. And here, you know, our teaching professors, some of you might have wondered already, you know, who are they, what can they do? These are really people who are what I call scholarly practitioners. They really are very knowledgeable about the research and are scholarly teachers, so will be an important resource. And they also will do research on this. So they will do they are scholarly practitioners, and they will do scholarship of teaching. So this centralized infrastructure hopefully will help us support all of those efforts. So the centralized infrastructure will not, what we have to work very hard on is not to become a silo. And so this is why we always have to reach out and say, how can we support you? What is it that we can do that will allow you to do something locally? Because really the focus of change really is the individual faculty and the individual department, and that's what we have to support. So these are some initiatives that really came about to address the issues that were highlighted. How do we prepare our students for success after graduation? How do we make sure that they are succeeding here? And how do we become a student-centered university? And they are all intertwined. They all have to do with scholarly teaching, and they all have to do with focusing on students and understanding how can we support students to learn. And we do this by changing how we are teaching. See how it is connected? So, sorry that it took so long, but I really appreciate that I had the opportunity to share these exciting events here. And biology is great, see? And Hermilla, fortunately, will continue do bio, and there will be lots of exciting things happening. So it's a great place. I think I'm really, it's a great place, and it's wonderful to be a biologist in any way.
And now you know why the EVC took.
So, do you have any questions, or yes?
Are we doing any, I find that a lot of the undergraduate students don't belong here.
Mm-hmm.
Are we doing anything, you know, they're just not at the level they should be to learn the material, so they're getting poor grades,
Mm-hmm.
and they're
Mm-hmm.
just going through the system.
Again, I didn't pay her to ask the question, I promise. So we are, in fall quarter, we are working right now on a pre-matriculation academy where we bring in students who are absolutely smart, but are underprepared. Exactly what Jackie said, they are underprepared. So there's really a gigantic difference. If you are a student coming from a very well-off neighborhood, or if you had parents that could send you to a private good school, versus students, and we recruit those students. And you know, next week we will go to Southeast San Diego, and recruit students, and we do recruiting here in San Diego area too, from schools who don't have the support to prepare the students in the way that maybe a La Jolla High or Torrey Pine High can do. And so the pre-matriculation students will, and we also know what the areas are. So for example, in STEM, we absolutely know that the Achilles heel of our students is the math preparation. And the other Achilles heel of our students is actually their abilities to write. And the ability to write is connected with the ability to think and to analyze. And the other thing that we know is that students, when they are coming here, the sense of belonging is also an emotional, social sense. So we are addressing all three of them, and we actually have gotten funding from the EVC to try this out, and it will be a STEM, again, a STEM approach. And if it is successful, it will be, it's only 150 students, but it's better than nothing. And so there are serious efforts going on. Now, this is also, again, why we need in the future, no, I turned this off, and now there we go. So, so again, what we need is we need to prepare faculty. You need to understand what you just said, and we need to give them tools to work with those students, and we need to have a center where the students can go for help, and those have to be interconnected. And faculty need to know where they can send the students, and we need to be able to talk to the faculty so that we can develop what is needed. So for example, in tutoring, we really don't have a tutoring center. Math is doing some tutoring, and in ChemZ, with the STEM folks, with the math people, have always dreamed about creating a tutoring center for math, where the tutors actually know their math, but they also know what a biology major might know, so that they can use biology examples, so that the students actually understand why they should be learning this. And so we can create those things with the resources that hopefully will be made available. It's very important, yes.
Do you have an idea of when the Center for Engaged Teaching will?
Yeah, so that's probably the easiest to develop, believe it or not, and it's a little bit, I mean, you know how long it takes to hire people. You have to write jobs cards, and you have to get approval, then you have to. So I hope by the end of the summer that we have all the staff ready. The Center for Engaged Learning will take a little bit longer, and the tools will be faster than the actual center. And by the way, there will be a new building, but that will be when I'm retired, so. But we are planning the building, and the building that will house those two centers and much more will be where the old student center, old student center, and where the old craft center is. And so there will actually, the craft center will be part of it, which I find really exciting, because speaking of creating an environment where students really like to be, I think having those kinds of places where you can do something very different, where you can interact with very different types of people, including community members, will be very important. So we are planning on those. So, yeah. If everything else, if everything is on track, so. No questions? Sorry.
No, that's fine. I don't know what to say. I think she's self-explanatory. Thank you very much.
No, thank you again for the opportunity. Thank you.